Hi there. For Alternate Reality Board Games, I'm Chad McCoy, and this is my wife, Deanna.
Hi.
Today we're going to be reviewing Skyline3000, a 2 to 4 player game from Z-Man Games.
Published in 2009, this is a city building game with a science fiction theme.
Players represent corporations competing to assemble buildings in their orbiting plants and then install them onto specially prepared platforms in the city districts. Each player is trying to construct the most living space in the most desirable areas of the city.
The desirable areas are the areas with the green spaces. Also, you have the spaceports and the mega malls. You can also use a billboard to reserve a space at a loss of 1 point for later construction.
At the end of 4 rounds of play, the player who has earned the most points is the most successful developer and the winner of the game.
Let's take a look at what's in the box.
The four-fold board is brightly colored and made of thick cardstock with a scoring track around the edge from 1 to 100. There is a misprint on the scoring track. The number 95 is misprinted as 65.
The game comes with a lot of wooden gray squares. These represent the floors in the building you will be constructing.
Each player will receive a construction plant. This is the large rectangular tile. This platform is in space, orbiting the planet, and this is where you will construct your buildings before lowering them into place on the surface below.
You also get 5 round roofs, 5 pointed roofs, 5 billboards, and a scoring marker. There are 4 sets of these components in 4 colors: purple, orange, white, and green.
There is also a stop card for each player, 12 green space tiles, 2 spaceports, and 2 mega malls, and a key, which is used to indicate whose turn it is.
There's a deck of floor cards,
A deck of roof cards,
and a deck of contract cards.
To set up the game, each player receives 2 floor cards, 2 roof cards, and 4 contract cards, as well as 1 stop card. The remaining cards are placed face up to the side of the board. These are now draw piles.
You'll also place 4 of the green space tiles on the board on the spaces with the green squares. There is 1 in the yellow district, 1 in the blue district, and 2 in the red district. Each player then takes the construction plant, roofs, and billboards of their color.
You will also take 6 floors and construct 4 buildings in your plant. You should have 2 buildings that are only 1 floor high. 1 building should have a round roof, and the other should have a pointed roof.
You should also have 2 buildings that are 2 floors high. Place a round roof on one and a pointed roof on the other.
Each player then takes their scoring marker and places it on the scoring track at 5.
Next to the beginning of the scoring track, there's an area of the city known as the auction district. It's marked with a number 1, number 2, and number 3. Stack 4 of the green space tiles on space number 1 and the other 4 green space tiles on number 2.
Then place the 2 round mega malls on space number 3 and the 2 X-shaped spaceports on top of them.
Determine which player will go first and give that player the key.
Now you're ready to play. This game has been set up for 2 players.
Okay, this game has 4 turns, and each of the 4 turns has 4 phases. So here's how it goes. On your first turn, the first phase, you'll have your hand of cards, and there are 5 actions that you can take. One action is that you can play a floor card. Now, a floor card you'll notice it has a number on there. You're going to ignore the numbers for this phase of the game, and you're only going to concentrate on the pictures. So this is a floor card. What you can do is you can discard a floor card, put it over there, and you can take 2 floor tiles. And what you will do with these is you will place them over here in your plant, and you can create a new building, or you can continue construction on a building that you had before. Say I placed those 2 and I played another floor card, I could come back and I could add 2 more to that, making it a level 4, or maybe I just want to put 1 there and start another one. Another thing that you can do is you can take a roof card, and you can discard a roof card, and if you see on the card, there's 2 different kinds of roofs. There's the round roofs and there's the pointed roofs. Now you can take one of either kind of roof that you like. So you can discard that, you take your roof, and you can, when you place this, you are completing a building. So you can put this, let's say I'm going to put it on my 3-story building. That completes that building, and I can now not go back and add to that building or change it in any way. That is a completed building. Another thing that you can do is you could play a contract card. Now the contract cards on the board, if you take a look here, there are 3 districts on the board. 1 district is blue, 1 is yellow, and 1 is red. Within each district, there are 3 blocks that are divided by these white borders. So there's 1, 2, and 3 different blocks. When you get a contract card, it'll have a color on it. So if you're going to play one of these, what happens is you take one of your completed buildings and you're going to drop it from your orbiting platform down onto the planet. And you have to put it in one of the blocks that matches the color on your contract card. Now, the rule is that when you place a building onto into an empty block for the first time, it has to be only 1 level high. So you can't put a 2-level building or a 3, it has to be a 1-level building. And it can have any kind of roof that it wants. Now, after one building has already been placed, anybody that puts another building in that same block has to build that building has to be the same size, the same height as the one that's there already, or it can be 1 floor higher. So if I wanted to put something here, I'd have to put another 1-story building, or I could put a 2-story building. And from this point on, all of the roofs in this block must match the roof that's already there. So since that one was a pointed roof, that one also has to be a pointed roof. Now there are other blocks here. If I wanted to put a building into a different block, I would have to start again with a 1-level building. And then the same rule applies for that. Now there are 3 different blocks for each district. The other rule is that 2 of the blocks have to match as far as the type of roof that is on there, but the 3rd one has to be a different size roof, or different type of roof there. So those are the reasons for putting, those are the rules for how you put your buildings down when you're using a contract card. And again, you're going to ignore the numbers that are on there for right now. One of the other things that you can do on your turn is you could take one of your billboards and you can place it anywhere on the board that you wish, into any district, into any block, as long as it can't be on an occupied space and it can't go on a green space. But anything that's open, you can put that down. When you do that, you have to subtract your scoring by 1. You lose a point for doing that. But what happens is you reserve that space for future construction. Nobody else can build there, then you've blocked someone else from being able to put anything there. One of the options that you have is to, if you have a billboard in play, you can replace it with one of your buildings. And if you do that, you discard your contract card, you replace the billboard with your building, and that costs you another point to be able to do that. So anytime you're going to play a billboard, you're going to lose a point at the time that you play it, and you're going to lose another point at the time that you replace it. So that is 4 actions. The 5th action is you can pass. Once you've passed, you can't take any more actions during that phase. But once you take 1 action, it goes around to the next player clockwise. They will choose 1 action to do. Everyone will do 1 action, it'll come back to you, and you can do a 2nd action. And play continues in this way clockwise around the table until everyone has passed. Once you've passed, you move on to phase 2. Now, phase 2 is the auction phase. And over in this corner of the board, we have the auction portion of the city. And we have green spaces in auction space 1 and 2. And then to begin with, you will have a spaceport as part of the 3rd auction. So every auction phase, you're going to be auctioning off 3 different items. Now what happens at this point is now on your cards, the pictures no longer matter. Only the numbers matter. And this functions as money. So the higher the number, the more money that it is. So you're going to use this stop card as well at this point. So the first item that's going to come up for auction is the first green space. And if you get one of these, you can put this down anywhere on the board, and if you control that area of the board, then that's worth a point for you. So you might say, I'd like to try maybe bidding 7 for that. See, I have the 5 and the 2, so I'll say I'm gonna bid 7, and I'm gonna put these cards face down on top of my other face down cards, but I don't want those to count toward my auction. So I'm going to take this stop card and I'm going to slide it right in between there, and everybody is going to bid on the same thing, and then whoever has the key over here will start, and they will turn over their first card, and everybody will go around turning the first card over, and then they will go and they'll turn over their second card, and everyone will continue to do that until you come up with your stop card, and then you know how much everyone has bid. Whoever has bid the most gets to take the green space and put it anywhere on the board that they wish. The person who won then discards the cards that he used to bid with. He does get his stop card back. The other players that did not win the auction get to take all of their cards back into their hand. And then we move on to auction number 2, where we bid for the next green space. Then we do it again for the spaceport. On turns 1 and 2, the 3rd part of the auction will always be for a spaceport. The 3rd and 4th turns, you'll be bidding on mega malls. The mega malls will double the space. Well, I'll get into that in our scoring. But that is the auction phase. The 3rd phase then is the scoring phase of the game. And that's where you're going to look at a portion of the board. Let's take this one here. And you're going to see who has the most floors built in each block. So if we take this block here, let's take a few of these other ones, and let's put this one here, and then let's take one of these here. Okay, so in this block, I have a 1-story building, and orange has a 1-story building. Now let's change that up just a bit. And let's say that orange has 2 buildings. Now it doesn't matter how many buildings you have, it all depends on how many floors you have. So I only have 1 floor here, and orange has 3. So orange, having more, has won this control of this particular block. For winning a block, you get 2 points. Then you also get to add any special things that are in here. In this one, there's 1 green space, so that would be worth another point. So orange would score 3 points off this block. Whoever this person is with the second most floors comes in second. So I would be the second one, and I get to score only the extras that are in here, like the green space. I would get 1 point. And then you adjust your scoring accordingly. So orange would have 3, and I would get 1 point. Then we come to the other block, and in this one, I have 3 floors, and orange has 2. So I win this particular one, so I get my 2 points. There are no specials in here. However, there is a billboard. The billboards count as a point for both me and for my opponent. So I would get another point And then orange comes in second in this area, so they get to score only the bonuses that are here, which is the 1. So after scoring those 2 blocks, we would see that we are both tied with a score of 9. If you happen to have a, which it would be in the later part of the game, if there was a spaceport in that block, then both the first and second place players would get to double their points in that area. If you have a spaceport in your block, that doesn't give you any more points, but it does let you draw more cards in the final phase, which is the next one, which we call the drawing phase. The drawing phase, at this point, everybody gets to draw 6 new cards from the discard pile here. And since it's face up, you know exactly what you're getting. So I might decide, well, I want to get this contract card, which is in the yellow district, and I may want a floor card and maybe another floor card and maybe a roof card, and you can pick and choose whichever you like. Everyone's going to get to draw 6 cards. Now, if you happen to have had control of a block that had a spaceport in it, and you were the leader in that area, then you get to draw 2 additional cards. If you were the second place player, then you get to draw 1 more card. At the end of the game, there will be 2 of these. I'm sorry, this is the beginning of the game. After turns 1 and 2, there will be 2 of these spaceports in play. So if you control 2 of them, then you will be able to draw an additional 4 cards for a total of 10. After you've drawn, whoever has the key will pass it clockwise to the next player, and we go through it again. The 4th turn of the game, you don't actually get to the drawing phase of the game. The game is over after the scoring portion of the 4th turn. And that's how you play Skyline 3000. So that is Skyline 3000. What did you think?
I really enjoyed the game.
I liked it too. I liked it because the instructions were easy to read. It plays in an hour or less. Has some really good strategy in it to where you have these cards that are construction materials, but they're also at the same time, they function as money during the auction phase. So you have this back and forth where you say, well, I have a card here that's it's a floor card, but it's an 8. So do I play it and I lose the 8 later at the auction, or do I hold on to it and use it for the auction because I may want a spaceport, I may want a mega mall, but maybe I need to play floors right now. Maybe that's the only card I have. So it's a balance between the construction materials and the auction money. I mean, the same cards function as both, so you have that little tension as to what should be done.
Right. I also like the reference as being on your rectangular card instead of having a separate card to have to refer back to all the time. It's right there. It's very simple to follow. In fact, as he was reading the instructions, I was able to very easily follow along with the instructions using my reference on my rectangular card.
Right. Now, as far as any negatives, as we pointed out before, the board is misprinted on the scoring track. When you get to 93, 94, then it says 65, and then it goes to 96. So that's a minor thing, but it's kind of odd. I also wish that they had put the scoring procedure on the quick reference card as well with everything else, because it is a really nice reference card, and it lets you know what's going on through every phase of the game except the scoring phase, and then you have to go back to the instructions to figure out that make sure that you're doing that right.
And the scoring can get kind of confusing with the mall doubling your points, and if you're in second place, which ones are your points as opposed to which points are the first place points. So that part of it, I have to agree with you. The scoring is quite confusing, and adding up all those points is confusing as well.
You just have to make sure that you're paying attention and doing it the right. There's kind of 2 ways that you could do the scoring. One way would be to go through each block and score your own points and go throughout the whole board. Another way might be to start with one block and everybody is scoring at the same time, and then you move on. And I think when we've played, we've had a little mix of doing that both ways. Instead of saying, all right, let's just stick with one way, so that we get. I think that's probably why it was a little more confusing to us.
And you also have to always watch the other player to make sure that they're scoring the right points.
That's in any game, as we well know. So what rating would you give the game?
I would give it an 8.
Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yes, and I think though it would be, I would rate it higher once I've played it with more than 2 people.
Right, because we've only tried this with two people, and I would give it an 8 as well. I really enjoyed it, and when we first played it, I rated it as 7. But the more we played it, the more that I saw that the strategy was really interesting, and it really drew me in. So I bumped it up to an 8 as well. As far as a 2-player game, this plays 2 to 4 players. We think this is a good 2-player game. It's not a great 2-player game because there's some strategy that a 2-player game never sees. Because as long as you're playing 2 players, there's always going to be one person who's winning a block, and then there's a second-place person that gets some points as well. So in a 2-player game, 2 people are always scoring points. Whereas in a 3- or 4-player game, you can block out another player from getting any points at all. And that's a situation that just doesn't come up in the 2-player game. So there's a little bit more strategy that you don't get to experience in the 2-player game.
With the billboards, at first I couldn't figure out why you would want to play the billboards to lose points. After playing it a couple times, I now realize that it's a great strategy tool and that I could actually block you out of a block and you not be able to build any larger on it, and then it reserves the opportunity for me to build on it if I want to, but I don't necessarily have to. I can leave that billboard there and I still get points during the scoring phase for that, and you don't get to build there.
So would you recommend it to other people?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it was a great game.
It's a great game also for people who may be new to board games, especially the hobby board games, and it would be a great entry-level game.
Yeah, I agree. All right. So for Alternate Reality Board Games, I'm Chad McCoy.
And I'm Deanne McCoy.
Thanks for watching.